Hi, I'm Grant Schreiber, the General Manager of the World Academy of Art and Science and the Global Campaign Manager of the Human Security for All campaign. We're here at CES 2026 with Gary Shapiro, the CEO of CES. We're in partnership with CES on the Human Security for All campaign, which was originally conceived around 4 years ago in conjunction with the United Nations Trust Fund for Human Security. Gary had the foresight and the vision to realize that technology went beyond gadgets and consumer concerns into the world of human rights and what technology can do for the world, solving real world problems. So that's what I'd like to speak to Gary about today. And Gary, thank you for talking with us today. I wanted to ask you first off, you had a visionary moment 4 years ago where you realized that human security and technology were combined in some way. And I heard your keynote speech last night at the dinner where you talked about technology moving towards good for the planet and good for people. Can you expand a little bit more about how you came to that realization and how it's going for CES in that regard?
You make me sound so much better than I actually am. So the truth is, about 4 or 5 years ago, I got a call from Walt Stinson, who's known in my industry because he was a great audio retailer and leader.
And Walt's a fellow of the World Academy.
Yes, he's a fellow, and he said, we have this thing, we have this campaign, is there anything we do? And I immediately, I think, responded, what a great idea. Yeah, we could use CES because the products at CES, we have a few thousand exhibitors, we have 140,000 or so people every year. These are products which actually meet almost all those human securities. The right to clean air, the right to clean water, the right to food, to be free from hunger, the right to healthcare, the right to community. Technology has come along and made inroads in each of those. I mean, we had just come off an amazing John Deere keynote, for example, where they talked about how their most advanced equipment uses the internet to save on fertilizer, to save on water, to save precisely target, to save on seeds. And in terms of resource saving, which is what part of food production is about. And so many things I saw, locally growing plants, locally growing food, automated robots which can produce things, were about really improving the human condition. And to me, it seemed like a natural thing. And working with the World Academy of Science and the UN and our own team, we were just very excited about it, pumped out about it. We talked to companies about it. You can see now throughout the show, they talk about these fundamental human securities in very meaningful ways.
When you walk around the show, you see so much technology that is aimed at consumers, and a lot of people from the outside would think that CES is simply about the next shiny gadget, the latest tech, which they've known, phones and tablets and that type of thing. But it goes so much deeper, as you mentioned.
What we see is there's a number of issues as technology moves forward. There always is. There's concerns about jobs. There's concerns about why do I need this? What do I want it for? What problem does it solve? And what we've seen is as technologies, in the sense of mankind's evolved from working with fire, or inventing the wheel, or the printing press, or the radio, or electricity, or the airplane, or the car, or computer, or the internet itself, and certainly now with wireless phones and now stepping up to AI, there's always concerns. And they're legitimate concerns that people have, that their skills may no longer be needed. That's why the Luddites it was people who saw factories coming and dehumanizing people because it would take away their livelihood of weaving, and factories make clothing. But which is true, there's displacement of jobs, but there's also an advancement of humans with every one of those, in terms of our ability to spread knowledge, to stay connected as a world, to stay warm, to be fed. And the average age of human beings, the survival life expectancy is more than quadrupled in the last 200 years. That's a significant accomplishment of technology, medicine, and science, frankly. And that's what's going on here today. Of course, there's concerns about AI and job dislocation, but new jobs will be created, they always are. But at the same time, our lives will change fundamentally as healthcare improves to fix things for our specific malady, for our specific genetic type and gender and race and where we live and food and genetic heritage. And then of course in food production, clean air, clean water. These products, some of them that we're seeing are saving energy, some of them are enhancing the air around us, some of them are simply sensing devices telling us that there's something wrong around us. And all these things contribute to humans in terms of overall satisfaction as a human being. Work is part of who we are as humans, and we have to figure out that as we go forward. But certainly, the old work days of 14 hours a day for everyone on the planet just to survive are eroding quickly. And we have to also, the advantage that technology provides is in mass production. You get the prices low enough so that almost anyone on Earth that has access to a power source, even if it's the sun, and some type of connection, telecommunications, they could create businesses, they could create jobs, they could communicate with relatives, they could do all these amazing things they've never done before. So we're going forward as a society. Technology isn't enabling us, and we still have a long way to go in terms of learning about ourselves and what makes us tick, how we can get along with each other better. I mean, there's frontiers to cross still, and we're still taking baby steps, but if you look at how far we've come in either the last 200 years or even the last 30 years, it's phenomenal, and a lot of it is based on technology.
And the impressive thing about CES is the fact that you're truly global. You have almost every country in the world represented here. So there must be all kinds of collaborations and ideas that are sparked, incubated here at CES. People who are walking around and going, wow, I never knew that existed. By next year, they might be back as an exhibitor with a whole brand new idea based on what they saw here this year. How are you seeing CES becoming a spark of inspiration to the industry around the world?
I think you described it very well. The interesting thing, every time something horrible happens, is there a silver lining? COVID was terrible. The silver lining was that at the highest level of almost every major company in the world, the top executives realized that their human contact with even their own employees and customers is critically important. It was a rough couple of years being isolated, and as much as I am the paid cheerleader for the technology industry, I think also the importance of human contact became solidified in the minds of a lot of the business world decision makers. And a trade show like CES allows people the opportunity to not only strengthen existing relationships, but to find new relationships, new partnerships, and figure out whether you trust someone or not, whether you're that spark. The other thing, and you mentioned it as well, is serendipity is absolutely critical as we go forward with technology. Because the discovery is that innovation is actually two different ideas coming together and producing something of value. And in a tech world, it has to happen because no tech company, not one, can do everything. And they have to partner with others. They partner with others for expertise, for chips, for knowledge, for intellectual property, or even for brand names, because a brand name of one may help a brand name of another. And the marketplace of competition has done a remarkable thing, allowing citizens of the world to have access to technologies at incredibly low prices. So basically, the cost of being connected with someone else is the cost of a low-priced telephone that can access the internet. And that's really great. And of course, you need the energy source, and it could be solar. There's a lot of opportunities with solar, and it's come a long ways. And I remember just even 20 years ago, touring countries like Vietnam and seeing that we're using car batteries to power TV sets and refrigerators, and that's how they keep your food cold and get their information. And we've come so much further in just 20 years, it's astounding.
Amazing. So last year at the United Nations in Geneva, you and CES were referred to as an example of how a large private enterprise, CES, was doing the work of traditional organizational big non-profits like the United Nations and other big aid agencies. You were compared to a success story in terms of our relationship. And I would love to hear more about how you see that, because many years ago at the United Nations, the UN Global Compact was formed, where business was invited to explore how business could be a good force for the world. CES has already been seen as doing the work, I think, in many ways, more effectively than some other big organizations around the world.
All I know is we thought it was a good idea to promote it and for companies to think about technology as a force for good. And not only did we start, in a sense, with those fundamental human securities, but we also went further in the sense that we've added, for example, a lot of focus on people with disabilities and technology as an equalizer. We work with various aspects of the disability community. It's a two-way. We learn, and our companies especially learn, that they have technologies that they never thought of could be used in certain ways. And the disability community gives us great ideas. And we, at the CES 2026 in January in Las Vegas, for the first time, we had an accessibility stage sponsored by Verizon, but showing all sorts of companies and the technologies they're offering and creating dialogue around accessibility. We have a foundation that focuses on that as well. We try to do things to make the world better, and I think what motivates our staff is a focus on innovation moving forward that'll make people's lives better around the world.
Right.
And it's not about having the best trade show. It's about creating an environment where people can discover different things and do business and have those synergies that moves technology forward.
Right.
Because there's so much happening so quickly and it's so positive. Of course, there are issues, and we're ones that actually advocate that we work with governments to develop the guardrails so people are protected in their privacy and their safeguards and the safety of these new AI platforms. But still we have the promise of quantum computing, and we have other new technologies coming along in so many different categories. And the UN can and is serving as a force for good to try to get the world to focus on that to the extent that we could help in any way through technology. Of course, it's an honor to do so.
And of course, solving the world's problems is actually good business. If you look at billions of people that do not have certain services, there's obviously a gap. That's called a gap in the market. If you put a positive business spin on it. So, encouraging technology and AI companies to service largely underserved areas and sectors is actually a business opportunity. So hopefully we see more. I've seen some amazing solutions on the floor at the exhibition halls.
Yeah, it's incredible. I mean, I'll say what we're passionate about also is a system which allows lower and lower cost products to get to people in the world. And the way you do that is honestly through intense competition and free trade. Free trade raises everyone up. Of course, we've had some serious issues with recently in the United States with the effort to block trade and impose costs, because I was trained as an economist, and the reality is the law of comparative advantage basically says everybody wins if trade is free and people do what they're best at, and that brings prices down for all consumers, and it also allows everyone to raise up. And the other aspect of it, which is really also a major UN focus, is the countries that are trading together and the people that are doing business together, they get to know each other as people. The only way you go to fight with people and battle with people if you could diminish them in your mind so you don't view them as equals, or you have relationships. And the relationships that are building up between different people in different countries is important. We have the meetings I've had here with representatives from different countries. The opportunity we see with the Abraham Accords, for example, even is to countries in the Mideast that want to trade together could do that, and we're happy to offer the CES as a forum for doing it. There's so much that would be done if we could keep moving in the direction of a world where countries view each other as allies and opportunities, and actually it brings down the cost always of things that the poorest people in the world can have access to.
Every year when I come to CES, it seems like there are more people. It's harder to move around, which is a good sign. What is your vision for the next 5 years for CES? Where do you see it going, and what excites you to get up in the morning and do what you do?
Well, what excites me to get up in the morning is the fact that if I don't do my job right, innovation will suffer. Governments may do something which is not helpful to innovation, always well-intentioned, but sometimes you cut off a little limb of a tree and you cut off a whole series of other trees and branches. And we're seeing so much changes now with the mapping of the genetic code, with drug discovery through AI and quantum, with all sorts of different cures, with the ability to analyze medical records going back and figure out what. There's so much going on, and you see it all around the show floor with companies in healthcare, in mobility, in the accessibility, and with robotics and others. So where I see CES going is definitely a greater focus on solving these fundamental human problems with robotics, with greater mobility, with all sorts of mobility, whether it be in air, underground, in the water, on land. I mean, just self-driving vehicles alone, for example, will save 1 million lives a year throughout the world, and literally probably hundreds of millions, or if not billions, of hospital admissions in a world where we have a shortage of healthcare providers, from doctors to nurses to technicians. Technology can fill the gap, and we have the ability. The technology is there, AI is there, and it's going to keep getting better and better. And our job is to make sure governments can talk to each other, work with each other, and do things which doesn't only benefit the biggest companies, but allows anyone with an idea to basically present it and start a new business, as long as they follow the guardrails and the guidelines and the laws that are there. In fact, the entire CES, and one of the reasons I joined this organization decades ago, is because I was inspired by the chairman of the board, who was the largest exhibitor, debating at a board meeting about whether or not there should be an increase. And he said, look, we're big companies, we can afford it. It doesn't matter to us what it costs to exhibit at CES, but we always have to make it available for anyone with an idea to expose it to media, to investors and retailers, to partners, to buyers, and all sorts of ways of getting it out there. And that'll make the world better. And that's the ethos that we have. And that's why we have something called Eureka Park. We'll have over 1,200 startups, and we self-service. All I have to do is show up, literally with a prototype or just an idea or a slogan or what we'll do, and they'll get feedback for 4 days from some of the top buyers and investors and others in the world.
Well, Gary, thank you for being an inspiration.
Well, thank you for
the work you do.
Thank you.
It certainly stretches far beyond Las Vegas, and your reach and influence is truly global.
You're very
So
kind.
thank you so much.
I appreciate that. Thank you.